Okay, welcome back to another episode of Baking Geek. This episode has been a long time coming. We're going to make ciabatta. Okay, it's one of my favourite types of bread, one of my favourite types of sourdough, and it's quite easily made at home. You don't need a lot of equipment. I'm going to be using a mixer later, but it's okay if you don't have a mixer. You can still do it anyway, just mixing by hand. It's not hard. Okay, so let's start talking about it. What you're going to do. You're going to make it in several stages. Okay, so the night before you want to make the bread for the next day, say, you're going to start with what's called a poolish, okay, or a beaker. There's many different names for it. I'm just going to grab a scraper. Okay, so the other thing is I've got here with me two types of sourdough. You can easily buy a sourdough starter on eBay for $10 and it gets sent to you. This one apparently is 400 years old from the southern part of Germany, and this one I actually made myself about 25 years ago. So I've been punching this one along for 25 years. It's got a beautiful aroma to it and it works very well. If you don't have a sourdough starter, you can easily do this with regular yeast. You just won't be using as much. I've been using these little packets. Now, one of those little 7-gram packets, that will last you quite a bit. You only use a small amount of it, okay? So anyway, let's get into it, okay? Right. Okay, so to get you started, you're going to need about 100 mils of water. And choose whichever sourdough, doesn't matter. You're only going to use a little bit of it. It really is about, I'm going to use a 400-year-old one. Well, why not? Anyway, you're going to use, hopefully it'll come out. There we go. Just an amount of it. It doesn't really matter how much you use. The more you use, obviously, the more of a kick it's going to come on very quickly. But it doesn't matter because we're going to do this the night before. Okay, so we've got 100 mils of water, 100 grams of flour, and a bit of your sourdough starter. If you don't have your sourdough starter, this is where you're just going to use maybe a gram of that 7-gram packet of yeast, okay? So all you can do is just mix it through like that. Yeah, okay. Just mix it through. You're not going to be overly working it. And that's the other thing with sourdough starters as well. I actually discovered it recently is they love wholemeal flour. So this got a little bit of wholemeal flour with it. What I find with regular white flour is it actually burns out very quickly and doesn't. Yeah. When I say burn out very quickly, it means like you could feed your sourdough starter up to twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. I've heard of people feeding it, but with the wholemeal flour, I find one feeding a day with the wholemeal flour should be fine, and it's plenty light the next day. Okay. Anyway. Once you've made your poolish, it's going to look like that. So you're going to put a cover over it and leave it on the bench overnight. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, we're back. All right, so your poolish has been resting overnight. Okay, so hopefully it's all nice and bubbly on top. And what we're going to do is I'm going to chuck it in the mixer. I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional. I'm going to use a beater instead of dough hook. Why? Because it's a very wet, high hydration dough. I'm going to put the recipe up on the screen so you'll see how much water is actually in it in both the poolish stage and in the final mixing stage. Okay, let's get into it. I generally weigh my water as well. I don't rely on the little lines on the measuring cups. Okay, so let's get into it. Just say I've actually got a scale here. I've chucked everything in. 260. That's spot on. There we go. Now, even though I'm putting my recipe up here, I'll be using this flour. Okay, you're going to have to experiment with whatever flour you're using in whichever part of the world you're in. Okay, it's all going to be different. This is the highest protein flour I could find at the store. It says it's for bread and pizza, so yeah, it is a good quality one that I've been using for quite a while. So without further ado, let's get into it, okay? All right. Now, I've been experimenting with mixing lately, and I find about between 6 and 8 minutes with the beater attachment does it pretty well. You're not going to beat the hell out of this dough. We really just want it to come together and pull off the sides of the bowl. Okay, we're going to give it a series of workings after that once it's had a fair bit of rest, and we'll continue to come back to it and give it build strength, so to speak. Okay, watch this. Okay, we're on the mixing. I did try this originally with the dough hook, and it wasn't really working. Like I said, it's a high hydration dough. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes once this is all mixed. Like I said, I put the recipe up on the screen, so there's no need to talk about that. It's a fairly simple recipe. Okay, bye. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, I'd say, and I can see the dough starting to pull away from the side of the bowl and stick to the beater itself. So we're going to take it off. We're going to give it a series of workings later, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, there we go. So what you're looking for is something with the consistency of that. Okay, that's going to be really nice later. Trust me, this is how good bread's made. Yeah. Right. So you're going to get a container. Now this is where we're going to keep it over the next few hours. So this is morning time, say. And this will be ready in the afternoon. Okay, so you're going to do this quite a few hours in advance, and we're going to have some beautiful bread for dinner tonight. Let me know in the comments how you like your ciabatta, what you like to put on it. Okay, there we go, that's everything. Yeah. Okay, welcome back. So it's been a few hours now, and I can tell the dough's nice and wobbly. It's starting to rise. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it some folds and let it build some strength up so that it doesn't go brrr, and we want it to be standing up nicely in the oven. Okay. First of all, you can wet your hands. Okay. Now we lined our container with a bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick to the container as well. Okay, so we're just going to lift it and fold it, lift it and fold it, do that to all four sides of it. Just sort of give it a bit of that sort of action. Okay, there we go, that's standing up nicely. We're going to do that a couple more times before we bake it. Okay, back next time. Okay, we're back again. Alright, so it's been about half an hour, and we're going to give this another turn over. Okay, it's looking really good. It's starting to build some strength, you can tell. Starting to build those nice big pockets of air. That's what we want. Alright, you don't want to overwork it at this point, so we just put it back. I reckon one more of those should do. Okay. Okay, so we're back. Okay, it's been about another half an hour. This is going to be my third and final sort of working of the dough before we shape it and bake it off, basically. So let's get to it. A little bit of oil on the hands. Just giving it sort of like a half fold, like you would if you were laminating pastry. You can really see it's starting to stand up now. And it's, yeah, the sides are all fairly strong. Okay, I'll come back in about 30 minutes and we will put this one out. Okay, so we're back. This is the final moment just before we stick it in the oven. So hopefully by now you've preheated your oven. I've got a tray in the bottom of it as well as a pizza stone. We're going to do this on the pizza stone. It's going to be good. But the tray in the bottom is for the ice cubes. You're going to chuck a couple of ice cubes, and that's going to create a bit of steam when we get our loaves in there. Okay, so hopefully by now the loaves will look something like that. And it's got a bit of structure on the side of it. It's starting to gain some strength. So now we're going to turn it out. There we go, that's looking great. And hopefully you've got yourself a metal scraper, something similar to that. It doesn't matter, you can use a plastic scraper too. Okay, so we're just going to get some of that flour on the top. Right, so now we're going to divide this into two. This is going to give us 2 loaves. There you go, beautiful. Now, you get your tray. Very carefully just lift the loaves onto the silicone paper, or the baking paper, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Get some flour on the hands. And there we go. I'm just going to let them rest for a couple of minutes before we stick them in the oven. Yeah, we're almost there. Okay, right, we're back. Right, so hopefully now, I've done a bit of a clean up in the meantime. Ciabatta's been about, I don't know, a few minutes just sitting there, just resting before we chuck it in the oven. So I'm going to get myself a couple of ice cubes. We're going to make the transition to the oven fairly quick, okay? Right, so like I said, I've got a tray I'm going to chuck these cubes into. I've got the oven up to 240 on fan forced. That's probably about 260 static bake if you're going to compare it. Right, we've got the steam happening. Using this tray as a peel basically. And then we're just going to give it with a bit of steam. That's it. We'll see you in about 35 minutes. Bye. Okay, it's been about 35 minutes. Let's go check on our ciabattas. All right. Whew. I'll tell you what, that looks sensational. Okay, slide them out onto a wire. There you go. The base should be nicely coloured. Bit of a hollow sort of sound when you tap it, okay? They're going to be fantastic for dinner tonight. And see that we've done a really good job of developing the dough, because I can see it almost, you've almost got a bloom on the side there. Okay, so if your ciabatta looks like something like that, you've done well. All right, hit the like button. Join us again next time. Bye.